Hello and welcome to day 2 of coverage here at Pro Tour Guilds of Ravnica. Maria, Rich, and Paul hanging out with you at the news desk today, and we are about to see our second draft of the Pro Tour, and I can't wait. But let's take a look, Rich, at our leaderboard.
Yeah, so of course when you have 500 players, you're going to squeeze it all down to just 2 perfect records. They belong to Tae-Jun Hao of Singapore and Jérémy Dezani of France. The 7 and 1s, what you're looking at on the scoreboard there, that is in draft card order, which means our feature pod will have Wilson Mott, Mark Jacobson, Nathan Eager of England, Romulo Disconti of Brazil, Andrew Ellenbogen, and Alejandro Olea Garcia. Then you get into the second pod. That features Hall of Famer Yuya Watanabe, Shota Yasuoka, Makihito Mihara, 3 Japanese Hall of Famers, all in pod 2. I'm sure we'll see plenty of feature match action with them. And then as you head down, 6 and 2, top of the 6 and 2s, John Finkel, the highest representative of Team Ultimate Guard right now. But basically, everyone with 4 and 4 or better got to come back. 5 and 3 is really the minimum you need to start thinking that you can still make the top 8, because Paul, it's such a huge field that really we're thinking it's above 12 and 4 that you're going to need to make the top 8.
Yeah, most of the Pro Tours in the past, maybe you have in X4, maybe 2 make it, but given that this is one of the largest individual Pro Tours that we've ever had, I think X4 might not make it this time around. So.
Wow. Paul, what were some of the standout moments for you yesterday? We had a few of them.
Of course, the match. Game 3.
It's just going to be called the match.
It is the match. Seth Manfield against Kai. There were so many tiny things back and forth. I could go on and on. I actually want to go back and rewatch that game multiple times just because of all the levels that were involved. You know, there was the time factor. You know, there was 5 turns left in the game, and Seth had to play to win. Kai not casting Vraska's Contempt, even though he had the mana to do so. Players always want to use all the mana that they can, but by doing so, Seth thought he didn't have the Vraska's Contempt, so he went all in for the attack, and then Kai had the Vraska's Contempt and swung back for the win. It was just an awesome game to watch.
Yeah, and of course, we're not just following individual players at this event because we are kicking off a new season of our team series, and BDM's at the leaderboard with that.
When we got to the end of day 1 yesterday, we declared Haruya Sword as our team of the day, but that may have been burying the lead of Musashi with 2 Hall of Famers who are going to be at draft pods 1 and 2 in Shota Yasuoka and Yuya Watanabe. And when I did my preview of the team series, we talked about the fact that Musashi had kind of a disappointing season last year, and how are they going to follow up? This is the team that, of course, won the first Pro Tour team series, and both Shota and Yuya have shown up to play this weekend and are crushing it, both 7 and 1, and you can see only 5 players in top 8 contention, though, here. Final Last Samurai with Makihito Mihara, another Japanese Hall of Famer, there in second place, and, of course, Haruya Sword with Jérémy Dezani at 8-0, one of your 2 co-leaders of the field. And that's a team that when you look at the results on the Pro Tour last year, when you just look at it match by match, that team had some of the best results. They were spread out over different teams last year. They've come together, including the world champion and the world's finalist. It's going to be a great day today as we watch these guys jockey for position the rest of the way into the top 8.
Thanks so much, BDM. All right, Rich. We've got draft kicking things off in the morning. What can we look forward to?
For sure. So we're going to look at our feature pod. Let's put it up on screen for you, and we'll work our way around the table. So Jérémy Dezani is where we are going to start. He is going to be our live drafter, and there's plenty of experience. There is Jérémy Dezani, your Pro Tour Theros champion with his 14 Grand Prix top 8s and 3 titles. Next to him, Alejandro Olea Garcia went 10 and 4 at Pro Tour 25th anniversary, as did that man, Romulo Disconti of Brazil. Then it's Andrew Ellenbogen. Vast Grand Prix experience for him. 600 Grand Prix matches, 3 top 8s. He's from Team Cardboard Live. Next to him, Tae-Jun Hao, Singapore, one of our 2 8-0 drafters from Grey Ogre Games. This is his 6th Pro Tour, got a couple of Grand Prix top 8s. Nearest the camera there on the right, that's Wilson Mott from Canada, the 27-year-old playing in his 5th Pro Tour. And then as we head on round, there's Nathan Eager. This is now 29 years old from England. And then Mark Jacobson, Mass Drop MTG, your Grand Prix winner of Mexico City. He is going to be our 2nd drafter. You'll see every pick from him. Yes, Mark, we will in a little while. So that's the shape of our pod. But for more on our 2 featured drafters, let's go back to BDM.
Thanks, Rich. And, we're going to talk about Jérémy Dezani, and it seems like we're making fun of him a little bit here to say 8-0 player with room to improve on day 2. But that's what Jérémy said himself last night. He was playing a deck that he picked up at the last minute. And, he just couldn't make the deck he wanted, a Jeskai control deck, work in a way that, really felt good for him. He said, okay, I'm going to go with the other deck the team is playing, which is a Boros aggro deck that has Aurelia in it. And through 8 rounds of the tournament, he did not realize Aurelia had Mentor. So this is a guy who looks to improve somehow on an 8-0 record, knowing what all his cards do. And maybe he can open up one of these Aurelias in draft and get really excited because that card is just amazing here in Limited. But again, he's a Pro Tour champion. He's a player of the year, and he's not going to let that shake him at all. He had a good sense of humor about it. Now, Mark Jacobson, our other featured drafter, this is someone who takes great pride in his limited success at the Pro Tour. He's a Grand Prix Mexico City champion, and he is someone who has really shepherded a whole generation of young Magic players onto the Pro Tour. SoCal Silver Club became East-West Bowl, became the various Mass Drop teams, still there with Mass Drop, and maybe a little under the radar of some of the other players, doesn't have that big Pro Tour top 8 finish yet, but one of the hardest working people on the Pro Tour and someone who's responsible for a lot of other people's success and now maybe having one of his big breakout finishes on the Pro Tour.
Thanks so much, BDM. Exciting stuff. All right, it's time for draft here on day 2 of Pro Tour Guilds of Ravnica.
Hello there, welcome back to the booth here at Pro Tour Guilds of Ravnica. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe, joined today by Eduardo Sujgalik. Eduardo, welcome. It's nice to have you along for a little drafto here early in the morning. It is day 2 upon us, and we've got our feature pod, number 1 pod in the field, meaning the top players all congregate into one 8-person pod where they're going to be drafted against each other. Let's take a look at that pod right now. We can get a feel for the lay of the table here. Jérémy Dezani on the right-hand side there. That's who we're going to be starting off with this morning. He is undefeated overnight and a really impressive run, 8-0, and looking to capitalize on that this morning. To his immediate right is Mark Jacobson, and Mark will be our other featured drafter. Notables at the table as well, some names that you'll recognize from yesterday, but Taejun Hao also sitting at 8-0 from Singapore as well. And this is going to get very interesting. Of course, it's a day 2 pod. The records are mixed. Some kind of interesting things can happen. And we'll be explaining that to you as we work our way down. But you know what? Let's head on down. It's time to draft here on day 2 at Pro Tour Guilds of Ravnica. Hello and welcome back to coverage here at Pro Tour Guilds of Ravnica. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe. I'm in the booth with Eduardo Sujgalik, and we are all set for our day 2 draft. This is, of course, the kickoff for our limited portion here on day 2. After that, it's standard the rest of the way through the tournament today and tomorrow for the top 8. Coming in at 8-0 overnight from France, Jérémy Dezani is going to be our featured drafter. He 3-0'd his pod yesterday and then had a lot of camera time for his constructed deck as well, Eduardo, where he pulled off some pretty miraculous wins in the feature match area.
Yeah, especially game 2, I think, of his match with Romulo was very tight. Jérémy pulling out of a very difficult situation in that game. Remember, learning at the end of the match that, Aurelia has Mentor, but which was
we learned a lot about Aurelia.
Yesterday was a learning lesson in what Aurelia does, which is beat face.
Yes, and she did. She won a lot of games for Jérémy Dezani. But of course, if he's going to play with Aurelia here in Limited, he's have to get very lucky and open up that powerful mythic rare on his side. What do you think? You know Jérémy quite well. You've tested with him before. He's part of a team that you've been associated with here. This is a Haruya Sword this time.
Yeah, so but I actually tested with him this time. I was kind of the designee cook of the team. It was good to
And you mean that literally, right?
Yeah, I was actually
you were in the
meals.
kitchen. Okay.
Yeah, I was actually in the kitchen making meals.
I thought you meant like you're brewing up something.
No. They were brewing up the decks. I was brewing up the food. essentially, I wanted to be with them. They're friends. I wanted to hang out, but it also was a good way to learn, from some of the best players in the world, see what the deck technology was going to be, and learn. It's important to be part of that group and learn how the format's going to develop for the Pro Tour, because they're approaching this kind of from, there's a point, everybody's in a house, and then from that point, how does the format evolve? Draft is one of those things that, though, that it test. I think this team and a lot of teams do it online, with Magic Online, Arena maybe down the line. You can test draft online, and we just share results, right? Like we have this massive spreadsheet where everybody puts their data in, and that way we get to know which archetypes do well or not. Yeah, I mean. Now I'm excited to see what Jérémy is going to draft. There are some preferences in the testing team, but truth be told, usually in this format you kind of want to stay open.
Yeah, and that's actually what he mentioned to me yesterday when I asked him how his first draft went. I said, "How did it go?" He said, "I drafted Boros," and I said, "Well, did you want to be is that a thing that you were trying to do?" And he said, "No." He said, I just, it was what was open. It was what my seat wanted me to draft, and I ended up with a pretty good deck, and I was able to 3-0 with it. So, I suspect we'll see a similar take from Jérémy today, where he's going to kind of let the cards come to him, which of course is the best way to draft.
Right. It's the traditional way to draft is usually you take the best 3 or 4 cards in your first packs. Ben Stark wrote an excellent series of articles. Obviously, we had him yesterday for the whole follow-up. But if you want to know the mind of Ben Stark, this is an older article, 2012, I think. But it was called Drafting the Hard Way. The cards in it may not make sense if you ever decide to look that article up. But I thought that was one of the best draft articles in terms of, you get to learn essentially from the best mind, like what Drafting the Hard Way is. And that's taking cards that allow you to branch out into different archetypes. Mm-hmm. And then once you read the signal, jump into an archetype and take it to town.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly what Jérémy's looking to do here. There he is. Take a look at Jérémy Dezani, again from France. That is, of course, a Pro Tour champion. And a Platinum Pro, etc.
Yeah, Jérémy is a really accomplished player.
He really is, and in not a huge amount of time. All right, we are into pack number 1, so let's get into this and see what he's got. I saw a Watcher in the Mist, Inescapable Blaze, and a Bounty of Might. There was also a Hatchery Spider, though I don't think he's going to care about that particularly here. He's pulled Goblin Crater Maker and the Watcher in the Mist to the front right now, Eduardo.
Yeah, I mean, this is more a preference thing. I think Bounty of Might is probably the most powerful card in a vacuum if you're going to start.
It's a lot of punch in one card. 9 damage, maybe wipe out your board.
Right, but Jérémy's looking at the back of this pack, and I see a lot of kind of Izzet cards in the pack. So Jérémy may be considering the Watcher in the Mist or the Goblin Crater Maker, understanding that one of those Izzet cards might come back. So taking the Watcher in the Mist, deciding not to go into green here and stay open. Trying to go either into Izzet with a top-end aggro threat or a defensive or a control threat to lock down the game.
Yeah, he actually, kind of interesting, he had 2 rares in the pack thanks to the foil, but he ended up taking a common. There's District Guide pulled to the front. I saw a Capture Sphere in the back, and it looks like a Necrotic Wound in between.
While you could take Capture Sphere here and stay on color, my feeling here is that you want to go for a little more power than that. Capture Sphere hasn't been that great in the format. It's okay. It's perfectly serviceable. It is a playable, but it's not been as good as it might have been in another format. So the Necrotic Wound would... It's kind of hard. None of these cards are that great.
I think I would just take the Sphere. Oh, he's interesting. He's looking at Sonic Assault now.
I mean, Sonic Assault is a card that's gone up in pick rate. Was that 10th?
Was that
District Guard?
10th District Guard.
That is interesting choice there.
I'm shocked right now. That just happened?
Yeah, that did just happen. But maybe Jérémy going back to that first pack thinking there were a lot of red cards there. So trying to think here.
I guess moving into white's paid off, at least in the short term here. He's got Luminous Bonds, but the best card in the pack is Goblin Banneret.
Yeah. Luminous Bonds would be on point with 10th District Guard, but honestly, I think both Luminous Bonds and Goblin Banneret are kind of very powerful cards. Either is fine. I've been really impressed with Goblin Banneret, but Luminous Bonds is a totally sensible pick here.
Especially because he just moved into white.
I don't know if taking 10th District Guard is moving into white.
Look, dude, I don't either, but I mean, he prioritized it pretty highly there.
I mean, curve is really important,
man.
but Okay, there's another Luminous Bond.
Well, he must have known something that we didn't know, because now he just gets past back-to-back Luminous Bonds after kind of jumping ship from his blue. Like, I mean, there's a pretty natural progression to take Watcher in the Mist and Capture Sphere, but he said, nope, I know what I want. And, I do wonder at this point, is Jérémy forcing Boros? Because he did not have a great Boros option in the first pack, and in the second pack, he took a mediocre 2-drop just to get into it, maybe.
I mean,
is that what we're seeing?
It might be that pack was so weak, Jérémy decided, you know what, I'm just going to take a card I would need if I got into that deck, and sacrificing here something that would go into, say, a Nizzit deck is not a sacrifice, really, or a Dimir deck. Man, wow, this pack is really, not just weak for Jérémy, it's just weak. That's like the second or third Temple Gardener we've seen. But yeah, no, this pack is very weak. Let's think here. With 2 Luminous Bond, Fire, neither of those cards is a card you want in a Boros deck. And there's nothing for a Selesnya deck. I mean, yeah, Fire Urchin is like a serviceable 2-drop, but it's pretty low. What Fire Urchin is very good with, though, are Mentor creatures. The Fire Urchin synergizes very well with some of the 2-drop Mentor creatures or a Wojek Bodyguard. Wow, these packs are dry. And
kind of all around.
Yeah, but it's not like Jérémy is deciding to not take cards that are powerful, but just to force an archetype. There's just nothing. Here, the Fearless Halberdier, I mean, these are not strong packs. This is a difficult position. I kind of like the Swarm Companions here. I think Jérémy's going to try to just take cards that would work with Mentor creatures and just hope for the best in pack 2. Maybe deciding here to, wow, Sacred Foundry. I think I know why this power level is so low. Essentially, all the rares are dual lands, so for some reason. So from there, well, the rare's not going to be as great. Yeah, Sacred Foundry, let's go. Represent the Boros. But yeah, it seems like Jérémy's going to take cards more into white. And then if Selesnya comes for some reason, might shift. But with the Bounty of Might passed earlier on, that might be a difficult option to go back in. The Boar a nice option here.
Rubber Bell Boar's nice.
Yeah.
Fine pickup, right?
Right, it's fine. It's like one. I kind of like it as the 4-drop along with Perhelion Patrol. But I think the Boar is the right pick. You could also make a weird case for Selesnya Guildgate and try to go in an Naya strategy if you think that you need to stay open and believe that you can't commit with the weak picks that are here. But Jérémy deciding to take the Boar here, understanding that a Selesnya Guildgate or a Temple Garden may come back.
Nothing really much for him here. He can take a Barging Sergeant, but that hasn't been a particularly sought-after card.
Yeah. If the power level of the draft is weak in the next packs, then Sergeant becomes a little better.
Yeah, that's true. it is relative to everything else, of course. As you mentioned, quite a few rares being opened up here in the land category.
Yeah. But yeah,
Looks like another one.
Yeah. I would probably see the Maniacal Rage being picked up. That's actually a really nice pickup late. It's a card that's gone up in evaluation for a lot of players. That hybrid of both being able to pump through damage and stopping a blocker is a really good kind of duo combination. Hunted Witness may not seem great, but 1-drop if you get Mentor creatures can be relevant. So it's a nice late pickup here. You don't want to sacrifice a pick on it, but getting it late is nice.
Yeah, also, if Jérémy does feel like the raw power level of his deck sinks a bit, cards like Hunted Witness and Maniacal Rage do combine well to apply a lot of pressure and just try to kind of get them.
Right, exactly.
Not necessarily what you want as your plan A, but...
Yeah. I like taking the Vapors here, get rid of that card. You have a bunch of X1s.
Definitely.
Solid.
Remember, these players are playing in pod here. They will be playing against other people in their pod, so...
And that's really relevant for packs like this where the power level is low. So because the power level of the packs is low, it's kind of self-corrects, right? Like everyone is going to have a weaker deck than average. Mm-hmm. But that means that pack 2 and 3, you might see some really weird stuff happening across this table. Yeah, and it was 10th District card.
Oh, it was. I double-checked. Like, I was just like, did our eyes deceive us? And there was some... And no, our spotter said that was definitely a 10th District card.
Wow, okay. I mean, the 2 Luminous Bonds are kind of nice, and they work well in an aggressive plan. Luminous Bonds, not a card you want to play on a 2-drop to buy time. It's a card you want to play on a 4 or 5-drop to push damage. So I kind of like how pacifism over the years has existed, and then someday someone was like, you know what? Let's just make this cost 1 more. Because wow, I remember pacifism at limited. Yeah, I think free mana is really where you want that effect. But yeah, here Jérémy doesn't have many 2-drops, which can be a problem. So I think
Well, he clearly prioritizes them, doesn't he?
right. I mean,
he's forcing Boros, right? I mean, that is my current explanation in my head, because 10th District Guard is just not a card that you would take in that spot unless you were looking to try to get somewhere.
yeah, you could have taken the Sonic Assault too.
Definitely.
Maybe leaving himself open to Boros. He did get a late red card, I believe, that wheeled, so that was,
Okay.
But the packs were really weak. Okay. So here, I mean, Jérémy's, I don't know if he's forcing Boros, so to say. Like, it wasn't like, I mean, it was kind of his seat. There wasn't much,
Is he okay? Jérémy looks like he might be having a little bit of a hard time. Maybe he's not feeling well. Oh, yeah, he just mentioned to the judge that he was feeling a little bit dizzy. So we're going to pause here and just make sure that Jérémy's feeling okay and healthy and everything. Of course, that's much more important than anything else that we're doing here. But you can tell he doesn't look like he's having a particularly enjoyable time.
Yeah. I mean, this, it doesn't happen too much, but...
Yeah, it's not actually. It's funny for those of us on the coverage team. We can relate to this type of feeling is traveling a lot, working really hard for a long time, then it all culminating in this kind of very public on-air situation. It can create some pretty stressful kind of mental stuff. I know that. When I'm traveling, sometimes I get headaches, where at home I almost never do.
Right, yeah.
And trying to get sleep when you're in the wrong time zone.
Yeah, like turning in your bed, like, for example, like the last couple of nights has been kind of difficult, right? Because you turn in your bed like you're not used to, like, the setup and everything. So, yeah, like, these players sacrifice a lot to travel, like you might have your partner at home or
That's
your
right.
friends or what you're used to, and it can take a toll on people.
It really can.
I love traveling. I'm one of the players that actually enjoys traveling. One of the players that likes traveling the most on the tour, but but it still gets to you, right?
It really does, and yeah, I think it's appropriate just to let Jérémy have a minute here to gather himself, make sure he's feeling healthy and stuff, and take care of himself. Yeah. And I've had that happen too when I was on the road, where I just felt like, man, I just don't feel right. Some sleep thing or some time zone, whatever. In fact, what I started doing, Eduardo, while we have a minute here, is I started to, especially for the longer trips, like to Europe and stuff, because I'm from North America, I'll actually travel out ahead of time.
Yeah, it's good
to get used to the time zone on my own time.
Yeah, you have to. Like, whenever I travel, going, I guess, east is really hard. So whenever I travel to Europe from North America, I make sure to give it a day and understand that day is to absorb and change. But yeah, okay.
And I live on the West Coast, so I always travel east, unless I get to go to Japan or Hawaii, which I love. All right, looks like we're into pack number 2 here, so Jérémy's feeling okay. And let's see what he's got here. I see a red, white, gold card, though I couldn't see what it was. Maybe it's a Legion.
That looks like
Guild
a
Mage.
dual. And there was also a dual.
Yeah, it was a Legion Guild Mage, and perhaps
that is
Integrity Intervention?
Resurgence.
You're right.
Yeah.
That is what it is. That card's pretty decent, but it looks like Jérémy's actually scoping the Guild Mage here, and I kind of don't blame him for that. I like that Guild Mage a lot.
Yeah, I mean, the Guild Mages, people have had more trouble evaluating this set because of the tap ability, but I think the fact that the 2/2 for 2 body is so good in Boros gives it the edge here. Response Resurgence also quite powerful, but not as powerful as, say, the other split card. The pumps, the ability of pump.
Integrity Intervention.
Intervention, yeah.
Yeah,
Like
pump
being able
spells
to
and
pump,
removal spells are
and
pretty good. Yeah.
Lightning Helix +2/+2 hybrid is pretty nice. There's the Healer's Hawk.
There's
the best
your
pickup.
friend.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
Healer's Hawk, a very nice pickup for a deck like this.
Yeah. Wow, those are some sweet rares. But
What was the other one? I didn't see.
Drowned Secrets and a rare you probably never played in Limited.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Healer's Hawk. I mean, that's for sure the pick. There's no
is.
question for me here.
Yeah, not close.
I mean, the card has gone up in card evaluation. So like early in the format, it might look bad, but now that the format's kind of matured, Healer's Hawk is a key part of these Boros decks, getting a bit of early pressure, and any mentor creature telling the Hawk, "Let's go, buddy." Like that's good to take it down.
One counter on a Hawk, and it's a very real threat that's hard to deal with. A 1/1 for lifelink flying for 1 isn't something you need to put a whole lot of attention to, but it's trivially easy to get a counter on it. Oh boy, Chemister's Insight. But there is a Goblin Crater Maker, another solid 2-drop for the deck.
Yeah, 2-drop hybrid removal spell. one of the good uncommons.
It's good.
Yeah, it's a very solid card.
Agree.
I think it's the easy pick here. Jeremy trying to figure out if Color the Culprit would come back with what's in the pack. Looking at the pack, it's unlikely. Since there are a lot of Izzet cards, and not too many Boros or Selesnya cards, so probably won't see that Color the Culprit come back. But it's possible. It's definitely within the realm of possibility.
I have a theory, by the way.
Which theory?
I think he wants to draft Boros both days just to match his shirt.
Is it to match his constructed deck as well?
Yeah, there you go. He wants to do it. He just wants to get some extra practice before the constructed round pops up in 3 rounds from now.
Yeah, I still love the story of how he read Aurelia. He did not know what Aurelia. It's just because he jumped on the deck late, right? The red-white deck.
He told us yesterday that he had not played the deck a single game until he showed up for the tournament.
Yeah, and here the pickup is going to be that cheap 2-drop. You may you may wonder if you're maybe newer to the format, but limited if you played a lot of draft. But you're new to Guilds of Ravnica, why Command the Storm wasn't taken. And really here, the curves being low is a high priority, not just for Boros, but kind of every guild. And that was one of the difficulties with the Golgari guild, was people weren't figuring out how to power out these kind of expensive creatures. You really needed to buy a lot of time. That Beacon Bolt is a signal that is probably open at the table, but the Boar is an okay pickup here.
I would take the Demotion for his deck.
My feeling is with the packs this week, I don't want to take conditional cards like Demotion. I want to take cards that are good on their own, like the Boar. The free body, when you're seeing a bunch of junk, is actually pretty good.
Yeah,
this is another Steam event. How many dual lands are we going to open?
No kidding. I just really liked Demotion in the Boros deck in general, and then the first Demotion over the second Boar for me would swing me in that direction.
Sure.
I mean, I can't quite tell how aggressive his deck's going to be. The Boros decks kind of sway from ultra aggressive to kind of mid-range level aggressive, but if you're looking to beat down, that Demotion's just straight up removal spell.
Yeah, but taking the Gird for battle here. I mean, the thing is here, like Jeremy is just looking to build a board here, and that Skyline Scout is a really nice pickup. Obviously, Chance for Glory, while it is an on-color mythic, not really the card you want to play, and yeah,
that is not obvious to everyone, by the way. Got a lot of people from the podcast telling us that they like that card.
Yeah, but it has the same problem as Glorious End from Amonkhet, for those who remember that card.
In that the game ends and you have not won it.
Yeah, your opponent's like, oh, I should probably just block here.
Indeed.
Oh, there's that second pick from Pack 1. Capture Sphere and 10th District Guard. I think we're just going to see... There weren't too many free drops. Jeremy leaving... The thing is, the free drop slot is very heavy in this format. That Whisper Agent being quite late because of all the guilds having a ton of great free drops. Jeremy here taking the 10th Disregard again, just prioritizing those 2 drops, leaving the free drop slot open for like a Sky Knight Legionnaire that would come in pack free.
That would be the most powerful card he's gotten. I mean... Boy, these packs have been light, and you mentioned it before, but it's been for everybody. The only thing that stood out a bit is it seems to be well positioned with those Beacon Bolts and such.
Yeah, that's the thing. I was a bit surprised by this pick, by the way. He took Unexplained Disappearance over Hunted Witness, maybe believing that he would never play the Hunted Witness here and hate drafting the Disappearance. A bit surprising a choice here, but yeah.
I'm surprised.
This makes sense, though, taking the Dazzling Lights, basically getting rid of all the anti-aggressive cards that would deal with board, because Jeremy's deck is just a board. It's just creatures and creatures that pump creatures and 1 or 2 tricks to push them through. Yeah. So something like Dazzling Lights against his deck, very powerful. So he's not hate drafting, so to speak. He's just taking the cards that are dangerous. The Gravitic Punch here, sideboard option for his deck rather than taking the Center Peacemaker. Yeah, I mean, I saw Beacon Bolt late. That's roughly the only thing that I could say was late. There hasn't been any power in these packs.
No.
Pack free might get very strange because there's been so little power in pack 1 and 2. If like pack free is big, that's going to mean a lot of powerful cards late and a lot of difficult decisions for these players.
Maybe some of the players might want to jump ship and say, my deck is so bad, I opened up this great thing, I'm just going to ditch a color and try to make it work.
There's a few good approaches when the packs are weak. One of them is to play an aggressive board-centric deck, since if all your cards at least do something, like they are on the board, they like Jeremy's deck, right? That's the approach Jeremy's choosing. You're deciding to be on the board, you're deciding to put pressure on your opponent. at least your cards are on the board. You're able to attack. That's one approach. That's an important approach when the packs are weak. No matter what, you're going to have a board presence. You're going to be able to attack your opponent. It'll be trivial to finish an opponent off who won't have any good defensive cards or any good late game. The second approach you can take is to take all those dual lands and guild gates and go, you know what? These packs have been so awful. I'm just going to take mana fixing and hope for the best in pack 2. And then pack 2's terrible. So you're like, I'm going to hope for the best in pack 3.
I don't hate the idea. Boy, although I will say, I do like where Jérémy ended up being here. If the packs are all going to be relatively weak, I want to have a strong... maybe not strong. I want to have a consistent game plan, right, that I can deploy that's straightforward, doesn't require a whole lot of things to go well for me. It's just a mix of land and spells. Everything has the same idea behind it, which is curve out, get your opponent dead, combat trick removal, that kind of thing.
Right, and I think that's the approach Jérémy took. The 10th Disregard was kind of a weird pickup, right? Like, I mean, you could have taken, I guess, Sonic Assault there, and then, like, taken Luminous Bond, so there would have been one less 2-drop in the deck. I don't think that would have been horrible. But yeah, here, as you mentioned, everything does the same thing. And I think that's the critical approach to Jérémy's plan. And it's paying off considering how weak these packs have been. The other thing, though, when packs are this weak, it's quite possible that one or two players at the table have a very strong rare in just a weak pack, and that hasn't gone around the table. So that you're going to be surprised, potentially. Like, the decks are going to be, like, like one highlight of the deck and then a lot of 22 support cast. You're going to have your star actor and then the supporting cast.
Well, let's see if Jérémy can open up a star of the show here. Maybe a Tajik or an Aurelia. I think he would probably settle for something not quite that strong. Ooh, there we go.
The Direct Current.
Sure.
Yeah, Direct Current, nice to push damage. Ooh, Bounty of Might.
Wow, that's the second one, isn't it?
Yeah, that would have been interesting. Bounty of Might is a card that kind of went down because it doesn't fit into the Selesnya or Golgari plans. I think if Bounty of Might was in the next set with Gruul, that would have been a sweet card. the Bloodthirst Trample deck, that would have been sweet. I mean, I don't know what the mechanics are, obviously. I'm just, Gruul tends to love to push face damage here. But I think the Direct Current here is going to be the pickup, solid pickup. And since Jérémy's passing in the same direction, there's going to be a double Bounty of Might deck, most likely. So, yeah.
In other words, a green deck.
Yeah, but Jérémy, when Jérémy faces the player who's being passed to these two Bounty of Mights, there's going to be, wait a second, I remember something here.
That's right. He may be able to play around it, though. Honestly, the raw power of a card like Bounty of Might is tough to get around. These packs, Eduardo.
Take the good 2-drop, move on with your life.
Just take the Skyline Scout.
This is why you're in Boros. It doesn't matter how bad these packs are. We're just going to take the 2-drop and move on with our life.
Yes, see, and that is the game plan because, he's supposed to be picking up a gold card here or a removal spell or something, and instead it's just like, okay, well, another 2-drop, on we go.
I mean, Skyline Scout is a nice 2-drop. Considering the board here, the power level's been low, but I still think you want the 2-drop that has potential evasion.
And you see that little head shake there from Jérémy. He's clearly going, gosh, these packs have not broken well for me. But I think everybody at the table is probably thinking similar.
I haven't seen a card as powerful as that Nightvale Sprite yet.
Right.
That's like the most powerful card.
That was the bomb of
all
the table.
Draft.
Yeah. So he's looking at Take Heart because he does want a couple more combat tricks. He also has 2 reasonable options at 2-drop. He has Ornery Goblin or Vernati Shieldmate available to him. So this is what do I need, right? Probably just wants to take the Take Heart here.
I think the Luminous Bonds is the pick, but Jérémy's trying to figure...
Wait, there's a Luminous Bonds in this
Yeah,
deck?
but he's trying to figure out if one of these cards will wheel. He looked at like 4 playable Boros cards, so he's going to take notes, not for further drafting, but if he doesn't get one of these cards, he knows that the table is very heavy in Boros, but it's still open in his seat. So
is this his third Luminous Bonds? He took 2 out of the first pack, right? So, wow, actually 3 Luminous Bonds is starting to get pretty nice when you're on the beatdown plan.
Yeah, I mean, Jérémy's just trying to make the deck as consistent as possible. Another Skyline Scout, another Boar, and a Boros Guildgate. It looks like Jérémy's deck is
this
infinite
looks like
2-drops. The 3-drops are just Luminous Bonds, and the 4-drops are just Boars.
Yeah.
That's the deck.
It looks like he made a constructed deck with, like, not a fully fleshed out collection here.
And there's the Boar. Jérémy's like, you know what? I don't actually have that much, so to speak, late game, so the Boar is going to allow me to push damage. And what is going to be a really...
This is...
mediocre Boros, but it probably is going to be good enough to take it down. There's just nothing.
There just is nothing going on. He's got Gert for battle or a Boros Guildgate pulled to the front now.
Yeah. Whoa. Okay. Status statue, but like, this is one of the first cards I've seen that like has a power level.
No kidding.
It's still fine. Like, I still think Jeremy's deck is good. It's just like I'm trying to put in context. You know, like you might be looking at this deck and going like, "Wow, this player's 8-0. They have this deck with so much." It doesn't look good. But then you realize looking at the packs, A, he's drafting the seat, and B, there's just not much. Like, the 2 Bounty of Mights might have been the most powerful plan. Otherwise, Bodyguard, that is amazing.
All
That
of a
is
sudden, his
great
best
pickup.
card.
That pickup, that is the card you want in Boros. We finally have a good mentor creature.
Boom, baby.
Perfect pick. Look at Jeremy. Jeremy's like, yeah, that's not hard. I'm
He's
taking
like-
this good.
Yeah, you know, this pack all told has been okay. He picked up the Luminous Bonds and the Wojak Bodyguard. Those are 2 of his better cards.
You know what's the best part of this pack?
What?
The cards are still bad.
Yeah, they are.
So it means that, like, you know, it's not just my deck that's bad, it's everybody else's. And that's an important consideration. I mean, Jeremy's obviously, when you play the games, it's different. Wait, that's the Perillian Patrol.
Hey.
Synergizes super well with the Hawk, the Swarm Companions, and the free boars, right? You can pump the Patrol, swing in for 4, mentor a creature. That is a really nice interaction. That is a great pickup late.
Really is.
And yeah, that helps guild mages late. So it seems like the open guilds going this way are mainly Boros, but there's a few Dimir cards kind of sneaking their way in to make a, I guess, playable Dimir deck. I wouldn't say good.
Boros deck,
oh,
yeah.
Dimir Spy. Is that a spy bug?
It is. We're ignoring that right now. I can't look at it. It hurts a little too much. But he's got demotion and then
And
nothing.
then some more demotions.
Yeah. Cards that have earned demotions. Oh, goodness sakes. Like I said, I do like the fact that he's in a straightforward game plan at a rough draft table, but
I feel like I'm drafting on Arena when I'm seeing this Dimir Spy bug and this fodder rage. So
no, that was 3 weeks ago. Arena, in the current Arena, that does not happen.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah,
That's fine. I still like
the fun
Dimir.
ended.
The fun ended?
they made
Aw.
some adjustments. Yeah,
Right.
it's like,
Well, taking the fodder rager here. There was not really anything for Jeremy here, so might as well take the fodder rager. That did start. Yeah, okay. So it seems like Boros was open, but Darkblade Agent probably going to be the pickup for Jeremy just to get rid of that card. It's actually really just a 2 free body is a bad news bear.
yeah, kind of annoying.
So this pack coming up is the one where Jeremy wanted to wheel a red or white card, and he got the Hammer Dropper back, and that's a House Guild Mage.
So we figured out what's open, and it's Dimir.
But still, the Hammer Dropper coming back, you saw those 4
Sure,
cards.
sure.
Jeremy knew that this was an option, and this is a potentially good pickup.
God, Notion Rain.
There's also a Dowser of Lights, which is not so bad. And Jeremy, this is interesting, takes the Dowser Light, doesn't mind that the Notion Rain makes a deck, because it's not the card he's worried about. He's worried about
Getting through a 4/5
right.
on the ground.
And you
yeah.
can see here, he's just considering, do I take this this uncurved rat?
Yep.
You can see he's just focused on what is going to hurt my game plan. And
That's right.
Not the Dimir Lockets. Really? I would have taken the Barrier Bones
I
there.
would have too.
Get rid of the 0 free. I know it's...
If my opponent taps out for Dimir Locket, I'm like, great.
yeah.
No problemo. Boy, I'll tell you what, I think I need a sip of that glass of water he had, because after this draft, that was a rough go. He kind of forced his way into Boros. It was kind of there, but it's interesting because he did end up filling out his curve, right? And this is kind of a feature of current era limited, is that this is what we would call a bad deck, meaning that it has all the tools still, right?
Yeah.
Like in drafts formats of the past, a bad deck would be like, oh no, like you have cards that don't do anything or you can't cast them.
Yeah.
That is absolutely not the case here. He has a very straightforward beatdown deck where he can curve out. The thing that makes it not as good as the others is just its raw power level, right?
Yeah.
So few gold cards, not that much in the way of big punch at the end, no bombs at all to speak of.
Yeah.
But he has a perfectly serviceable Boros deck that he can cast creatures, make them bigger, get your stuff out of the way, and get you dead.
Right, and that's the thing. You saw his priority on 2 drops, and those free drops are Luminous Bond, Wojak Bodyguard, and 4 drops are boars. You're just pushing damage. And the thing is, it's like the Dimir cards were only the last pack. It wasn't like pack 1 or 2. There were many options here. So at the end, Jeremy really I think, drafted his seat and did the best job possible given the circumstance. So I think Jeremy drafted this well. It's just, now the thing is, we saw many Fire Mines research, Temple Gardens, like
Yes.
all the like rares. Like if you were like opening, the dual land collection was there. It was like
you
yeah,
would
it
have
was
a
there.
good way towards your standard collection if you had opened the packs at this table. All right, so that means that the players are now going to go out into the field, start building their deck, and we're going to let them do that. While they do that, though, we're going to get a chance to watch Mark Jacobson draft, and then we'll be back in the feature match area for live action. First, we're going to take a short commercial break. When we come back, we'll have more live Magic here from Atlanta. Don't go anywhere.